Hello. It's Liz, as it always is on this channel. I'm just here to do a low-key video about some of the misconceptions that people have about autism spectrum disorder. Um, and I'm just focusing on the things that I haven't seen on other people's channels because I've seen a lot of things addressed like really repeatedly, like the idea that we can't be like attractive or that we have to be into very specific things or that we have to act a very specific way, that we can't be, hi Lydia, that we can't be, that we can't, I don't know, be in certain subcultures or whatever. Um, or that we have to always our whole lives be terrible at social interactions. So I feel like those myths have been pretty addressed if you've like looked into stuff about folks on the spectrum. You're probably relatively educated on those points. Yeah, Lydia wants to show you guys some stuff, but it's really not the time. So I just wanted to address some things that, I haven't seen really talked about. So what those things are going to be, just to make a little list, is, well, okay, I am doing one that I have seen addressed a lot, but I want to give my own take on it, and that's the lack of empathy thing. That, yeah, that's a myth. Another one is that we're all introverts. This is something I see a lot even in autism communities. So I was just making sure she wasn't taking the beads off of that necklace. Another one is, well, I just kind of want to address some of the modeling, because we don't all exhibit all of the symptoms necessarily that are attributed to autism, and that might partially be because some of those symptoms are just misunderstood or mischaracterized, but it's also just because we're all different. And I mean, really, any kind of language is a model for reality. It's not exactly what's happening. So we've chosen to define a certain certain parameters for what's called autism spectrum disorder, but that's a human construct. That's not, there's not a one-to-one relationship between that construct we've created and who falls into the diagnosis based on that, and like the reality of the phenomenon we're attempting to describe, if that makes any sense. Another one I want to tackle is the abstract thinking thing, this idea that we have a hard time thinking abstractly. This one is particularly absurd to me because I mean, not just from my own experience, but I know a lot of people on the spectrum, including people who were quite a bit further on the spectrum than me. And I just find that to be a very silly idea. Very silly. And I think I know what people are attempting to communicate when they say that we don't think abstractly, but I think that's a terrible way to put it. I think it's a very misleading statement at best. Another one I want to talk about is this idea that we lack mirror neurons. This isn't as popular an idea. It's just one I've heard. And I'm not a neuroscientist or whatever. I'm not even really sure what kind of scientist would study that kind of thing. So just disclaimer, this is just a kind of personal, anecdotal, and not super, super educated take. But I don't know. I don't believe it. And then I feel like there was one other thing, but hopefully I'll remember. I don't know if I'm going to edit this video. Maybe someday. I've been so tired, guys. Anyway. Okay, let's get started. I don't remember what I said first. The empathy thing. Okay. So what I wanted to say about that is I wanted to try to describe my experience of empathy. To just throw in my 2 cents in this conversation, because what I've seen described, and I agree with, is that autistic people, actually, we do have often a fair amount of empathy. I mean, it's different person to person, obviously, like any other group, but I don't feel like there's this strong correlation between lack of empathy and autism. I don't believe that. I think the issue, again, as has been described by many other people, is that we have a harder time conveying it. And that we also have a harder time just necessarily picking up on what's going on with other people, and knowing how to respond, again, in such a way that people understand that we care. And at a certain point, it kind of depends on how exactly you define empathy. Because if you define it as feeling with other people exactly how they feel, I say that my experience with that really varies wildly. And a lot of the time, I don't really feel with other people. A lot of the time, like, my own feelings are very detached. And I don't know if that's because of autism. I mean, that could just be me. That could be, past trauma. That could be whatever. There are other experiences that I have where I feel with others very intensely, where I really enter into it. And it's something I can kind of choose to do to a certain extent. If I put enough effort into it, I can enter into the emotions that other people are having very often. Sometimes I still haven't really been able to. But that doesn't mean I don't care. That doesn't mean I don't, sorry, just a sec. Gotta wipe your nose. Gotta blow your nose a little bit. There we go. That doesn't mean that I that I don't want to help, or that I don't that I don't care, because I usually do. I usually do care how people feel. Even people I don't like. Even people, I mean, there comes a point of compassion fatigue, perhaps, and I've experienced that, and it was not cool for anybody involved. But mostly I do. Mostly I care, and mostly I want to know how people feel, what their real feelings are, and I try to ascertain them, and I try to soak up people's vibes. And here's the thing about that, is that, well, even in times when my empathy might not be very accessible for me, Dada's at work, sweetie. Even when my empathy might not be very accessible for me, I do feel very sensitive, and I'm not sure how to put this in a way that isn't very like woo, but I do really pick up on people's like energy. I feel that. I wouldn't necessarily say I feel their emotions. But if I'm around people, or even if I am presented with some of their writing or pictures, like, I can really kind of get into, like, I can pick up on the sort of vibes of who they are, and I can feel that very intensely pretty much all the time. I'm getting a lot of sensations and perceptions based on based on the information that I have. Like, it's, and maybe there's an element of man, what's that called? You know, when it's like you taste colors and you associate colors with numbers and that kind of thing. Um, Whatever, I'll remember it someday. I mean, I definitely experienced that pretty intensely, and I definitely experience sort of a similar thing, but just kind of with vibing people out, you know, and that's a tool that I use and that I've developed as I've gotten older to assess people's character and try to understand if they're um, deceiving me or trying to manipulate me or just what their deal is. You know, I rely on that a lot more than I rely on, I don't know what, social indicators or whatever. Like I've just learned to use the sort of, because I do have extreme sensory sensitivity, and that's an autism thing. Um, so I kind of try to use that to develop a sort of sixth sense, if you will, a sort of intuitive uh, reaction or perception based on the sensory information, the sensory input that I get. And that's kind of based on, as I, you know, understand that it's understood, sort of your brain very, very quickly, you know, making correlations between your experiences with different things and different people and different stuff, and kind of putting together some kind of perceptive feeling based on what you have to go on. And I find that intuitive sense is pretty trustworthy. It's panned out for me. And it's more accurate as I've gotten older. Because definitely when I was younger, there was stuff that I was still just naive to, or patterns I hadn't picked up on. And I'm sure as I get older, I'll pick up on more. You know, given that I do get older and that I don't get some kind of brain disease and or whatever. God willing. So, yeah, I'd say that I can't speak for other autistic people on that point. So I don't know if I'm just trying to contribute to the discussion with my own 2 cents. I'd be very interested if other autistic people related to that experience of kind of vibing people rather than having textbook empathy, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's my experience with that. And I think leading right into that is that mirror neuron thing. So my ignorant understanding of mirror neurons is that they're what allow us to kind of mimic other people in an automatic way. And I guess the reason that I have such a hard time believing that's an autistic thing is because, you know, I'm quite certain I'm on the spectrum. B, with that, I've also had a lot of experiences of that classic autism thing of just feeling like I didn't get some kind of social memo that everybody else got, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know why my behavior is being considered inappropriate. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. I'm oblivious, perhaps, to the fact that I'm making people uncomfortable or that I'm failing to uphold some kind of social protocol because I'm just not aware that it's a thing. I've had a lot of that experience, especially when I was younger, and I've, you know, like a lot of quote unquote high functioning people, I've managed to intellectually piece a lot of that kind of stuff together, so I can mostly avoid that. But not altogether. There's still awkwardness. I still have a really hard time initiating introduction, like introducing people to each other, or like figuring out how to initiate you know, an interaction even with people I know pretty well. It feels I get very like you know, like I'm excited but like weird about it. Yes. Yeah, Lydia thinks it's very funny.
So a lot of people attribute that kind of thing to mirror neurons. And the reason I have such a hard time believing that that's what it is. Jeez. Is that I, at the same time as all that, I also find it very, very easy, or just not even easy, but just automatic. Lydia, that's very cute, but could you please be a little quieter? And wait. I find it very automatic to, for instance, if I'm talking to somebody who has an accent, I'll just start having their accent. Like, it's not something I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to mock them or mimic them. It's completely automatic, but I just start speaking in their accent. And if I'm around people with a certain accent for hours or days, I will carry on that accent, for some amount of time after. Don't touch that. Lydia, don't touch. Yeah, you can just wave at it. For hours or days, perhaps after I'm done with the interaction. Sorry, just no. 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 Don't touch that. Okay. Anyway. So what I was trying to say is that, yeah, I just pick up people's accents very easily. It's I think it's a thing that's genetic, because I get it from my dad. Like, my dad, more so than me, is just amazing at doing impressions, which I also can do. And again, it's automatic. It's not like I sit there like trying to figure out how to say it the way they're saying it, or trying to understand intellectually, what their vocal mannerisms are like. Is just, if I'm thinking about somebody, and I've heard them speak a lot, whether they're a celebrity or a friend, I might just, like, and I want to, talk like them, or I want to do an impression of them. It'll just come out, and it'll sound surprisingly good, often. And that's the kind of thing that sounds to me like it's a mirror neuron thing. I mean, doesn't it? And again, maybe I'm totally wrong, but that is like definitely, and physically too, like with my body, I can do impressions of people. Like, I can, very automatically, if there's someone I know well, or somebody I've watched a lot, like on TV, I may be able to just automatically, when I'm trying to pretend I'm them for whatever reason, just like, not just talk like them, but walk like them, just start holding myself the way they do. And again, it's automatic. It's not thought about at all. And this is one reason that I used to be, this is connected to why I used to do so much performance art, and I used to do improv theater and dance, is because of, this ability to move and, use my voice in a way that that mimics others. So that stuff comes very naturally to me. It's just not the social rules. I don't think that's a mimicry thing at all. I don't know what it is, but I just don't think it's connected. I understand why people might think it is. But just because you can mimic how a person acts doesn't mean you understand the meaning of why they act that way, or what the sort of social praxis is. let alone that you understand group interactions, and what's being communicated. I just don't see how it's related. So yeah, I just don't find that believable. What was the next thing? I need to brush my teeth. Um, okay, so I didn't say I was going to talk about this, but just real quick, I find it very annoying that and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a therapist, and she finds this annoying as well, that the whole executive function part of autism is no longer part of the diagnosis, which is like super stupid. It's just like, and they want to say that it's like, oh, well, we're just going to say it's comorbid with ADHD now because ADHD is the one thing of executive dysfunction. ADHD is very different. I understand that to people who are only looking at the diagnostic criteria as they're written out in our clunky little models, that they're the same, but they're so different. You know, my husband has ADHD, and I've also, I've read a lot about it. And the stuff I've read definitely sounds like him, definitely sounds like his way of processing and his experience and the things that help him. It's just not that way for me. And there's very little of it that really, when you get into the nitty gritty, I relate to. It's only the surface level stuff. Like, yeah, we both have problems with organizing, but the problems that we have with organizing are different. You know? Yeah, we both struggle in social interactions, but the struggles that we have are different. It's just stuff like that. And I think a lot of people have been misdiagnosed. Like, I definitely can think of at least one person off the top of my head that is diagnosed with ADHD and not ASD. And I think they're ASD. I really don't believe they're ADHD. I don't see it. But, the way that they interact very much mirrors the way I interact. And so I would tend to believe that there's more of a similarity than they have ASD. Anyway, I'm rambling. Next thing. Wait, now I forgot it again. What was it? What was it? Oh, Lydia's trying to drink her necklace out of a jar. Oh, I gotta let the cat out. Maybe when I let the cat out, I'll think of what I was thinking. Yes, that is Torgo's theme. Come on, other cat. Come on, Daisy. Okay, I still didn't think of it. I'm gonna have to go back and look at this video and see what I was gonna do. Man, I'm so out of it. Let's see, I remembered for a second. What was I talking about? ADHD, and organization, and oh yeah, the introvert thing. So this is kind of okay, I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but it's become an annoyance. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, Lydia's loose on the other side of the house. But yeah, so I'm not an introvert. And I don't believe that autistic people are necessarily introverts. Lyd, we're not playing with this right now. And this has been kind of obliquely talked about in other channels I've seen. But I wanted to address it directly because, I've seen it addressed in the sense that people will say, well, it's not necessarily that autistic people don't want to be in other people's company. It's that we have, maybe a hard time developing friendships or just navigating being social. Um, and I'd say that's true for me to an extent. But I've always enjoyed being around people, and I just love people, and it's something that, as much as, I mean, it definitely can get to a point, like if I don't have enough time in the day where I'm alone, or like just not having to directly interact with people, like talk to people, if I don't have enough time in the day, yeah, I will start to kind of get to a point of shutdown where I just won't be able to function anymore. So that's definitely true. And I definitely can interact in a way that's awkward or weird or that not everybody likes. But I derive a lot of energy from parties and being around people, and even if I'm not, I've been the person who's the life of the party, but I don't need to be in order to have a good time. I can just sit and watch people, and I love it. I just soaking up their presence. I enjoy it a lot. Talking to new people, hearing new perspectives. She's pouring the necklace into a cup. Um, I need that in my life, or I start getting really depressed. So I'm definitely an extrovert. I'm a classic extrovert. And I see even a lot in the autistic community this assumption that everybody hates being around people. And I think there's a level of like, this gets into another thing that I don't relate to, that's attributed to autism or linked with autism, is this idea that we're all anxious. I don't find that to be true. And I don't know, I don't feel like I've ever been an anxious person. I mean, I'm tempted to say, well, it's because of this, or because I do this practice, or because I just don't think I've ever really been an anxious person. So I'm like, I've been made aware that people can think I'm weird. It just, I accept it. It's just not something that scares me, or upsets me. It's just, I don't feel anxious about it. It's whatever. I don't need everybody to like me. I don't need everybody to like me in order for me to like them and for me to enjoy being around them. It's just, yeah. And I think there's a level too where, like, I know a lot of autistic people have experienced really being bullied, and maybe that's part of it. I haven't experienced that. And if I did experience it, I was kind of oblivious to it. I know that, again, I know there were times where I was definitely set aside as the weird kid, but I just kind of, my way of dealing with that ultimately wound up being like in high school and middle school. I mean, I had some bad times in middle school. Okay, I was kind of bullied a little bit, and that was really hard. But the way I eventually dealt with it, sorry, I just want to monitor this interaction between my kid and my cat. Yeah. She's trying to give the cat a necklace. I don't know how that's going to go. Anyway, my way of dealing with it was just to sort of embrace what people thought of me. The people thought I was this or that, and they didn't like me. I just decided to say, well, okay, and be confident anyway, and just be myself. There were definitely times, like in middle school, where I was really trying hard to not be myself, and to I want to say assimilate, but I know there's a better word. But to sort of assimilate to the norms of like the cool crowd and the popular crowd, so that I could be accepted and get validation. But when I realized that I was just very bad at that, I was like, well, maybe I should just not try to do this and just do what I want to do. So like, got one life, this isn't worth my time. And what I found very quickly was that that wound up attracting people that I did actually enjoy being around. Um, and so I was like, well, that's better than having the validation of people that I don't really relate to or find very interesting, even if they are the people who are supposed to be the cool people. And even a lot of them wound up respecting me more once I shrugged it all off. And so I feel like, well, this may not be the sort of classic autistic narrative. I feel like it's a very autistic way to deal with rejection and social alienation. Um, and it's one that wound up, by the end of high school, I was friends, or at least friendly, with a really huge variety of people in my high school, including some of the, whatever popular kids, but really all kinds of kids. And I was involved in a lot of activities, and I had a pretty thriving social life. And, but it was based on me not really actually just not at all trying to conform was the word I'm looking for. Not trying to conform to their social norms. I mean, really I didn't I didn't wear deodorant. I patched up all my weird clothes. Like, I made my own weird clothes and cut my own hair, and just like, and I still cut my own hair, but I've gotten better at it. It was pretty bad. I was just like, I just went for it. I was like, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. And there was just a lot of people who were attracted to that confidence and that authenticity. And that's something that I see, I mean, it plays out with people who perhaps are not autistic. Like, I don't know, but I guess I'm assuming that Cardi B isn't autistic. Maybe she is. But she's somebody who really stands out to me right now, because the whole way she got famous, and her, like, a lot of her appeal, I mean, of course, she's also beautiful, and she's got, she makes pretty good music, and she, whatever, but but there's a lot of people that, you could say that about, that don't have the kind of excited fan base that she does. And I think the main reason she got famous was because of her Instagram personality, which is just her personality. I mean, you can tell it's very authentic. You can tell there's not much of a filter there. And that's what makes it so endearing, is like, there's no subterfuge. And there's a lot of people who are going to appreciate that. They're going to see it and they're going to appreciate that. I mean, of course, there's always going to be people who project their own sort of subterfuge onto others. Like, they'll just assume that somehow the way you're acting is an act, and that can't really be you, or whatever. And I'm sure people say that about Cardi too. But it's pretty clear to me that she's very authentic, and not like, authentic TM, but like, really, she's just saying what she thinks all the time. I guess I want to be clear that, like, it's not that I necessarily say everything I think all the time, but I mean, definitely sometimes I'm thoughtful about what I present, because I don't want to hurt people's feelings, or I've just learned, since I've matured from being a high schooler, that there's a time and a place, and that even if I do honestly believe something, and even if I think that's what that person needs to hear, that might not be the case. Maybe, and to let it go, or to, that there are times to just tell people the positive aspect of what you have to say to them, and not everything else. So I've learned to hold back, and I've learned to to not manicure. Sorry, I just have such a hard time thinking of words because I'm so tired all the time. But I've totally lost my train of thought. Sorry, I've just been having health issues, and I haven't been sleeping well. But I've learned to tailor myself a little bit to the situation and to the person. but I don't serve up anything that I don't really feel and I don't really think, you know. um, and yeah, I think people like that. If you can present it in at least in a way that they find pleasing, which not all autistic people can. I mean, some autistic people are just too have too hard of a time with language, or have too many kind of tics or mannerisms that people find distracting, or whatever. But I think autistic people can be charismatic and can be social successfully, but in a very autistic way. So anyway, with that, I know I didn't cover everything I said I was going to, but my computer is dying, and um, whatever. I'll I'll do another video someday if I have to. Please share this with your friends, and subscribe if you liked this, and like it and comment and all that stuff. Please help me out. Thanks. Bye.